There was an affair that resulted in me having a child, and now his wife is trying to get in touch with me. I am such an idiot. A few years ago, I, a woman of 26 years old, had an affair with a man of 42 years old who was married. When I first met him and started seeing him, I had no idea that he was already married. Obviously, I searched him up on social media, and while he did have pictures of his children on his account, there was not a single mention of a wife or any pictures of her at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we had first started dating, and I was really surprised. However, he explained to me that it was simply a marriage on paper, and that they practically led separate lives. They agreed to stay married for practical reasons until the children were older. She was the one who actually operated the company, while he was only involved financially in it. They owned a firm together. Although I was aware at the time that I probably shouldn't have believed him, I managed to persuade myself that it was actual. I was in my early 20s when I became so drawn to him, and I couldn't help but feel that I was almost in love with him. It was because of him that I felt so much better. My current knowledge tells me that I ought to have terminated it right away, but at the time I was unaware of what I was getting myself into. As a result of all of the attention he gave me, the wonderful sex, and the places he would take me, I became addicted to him. I had a unique mood. I had such a naivety. After approximately a year of dating him, I found out I was pregnant. Up until that point, I had always been quite careful about avoiding getting pregnant, but while I was in a relationship with him, I made several foolish mistakes. When I was with this guy, I was so enamored with him that it's humiliating. When he asked me to do something, I would agree to practically anything he wanted me to do, even if I knew it was a poorly thought-out plan. To a certain extent, I believed that I was in love with him. Getting pregnant was not something I had planned on doing before. As a matter of course, I would fantasize about being his wife and starting a family, but I was aware that this would not be a viable option for me while he was carrying out this arrangement with his current wife. Even though I wished that we could be a true, regular couple, I did not get pregnant on purpose with the idea of him leaving her for me. I did not do this because I wanted to be a family. I was taken aback by the high level of excitement I had about being pregnant with his child. After I discovered that I was pregnant, I desired to have that child. I understood that he probably wouldn't feel the same way about carrying this kid of the man I loved, but the prospect of carrying this baby of his was so emotional for me. When I told him that I was pregnant, he told me that I would not be able to keep the baby. I had anticipated his response. But I was utterly heartbroken, and the fact that he did not feel the same way that I did was a source of profound pain for me. If I would simply get rid of the kid, he offered to pay for it, to make the entire weekend of it by going somewhere exciting, to get me something nice, and to make the whole thing happen. What the F? He explained that he did not want any more children, and that he could not openly be a father to another child while he and his wife were still pretending to the outer world that they were blissfully married. I gave in and agreed to do what he wanted, and we made arrangements for him to pick me up and take me to a location outside of town so that we could complete the task. In spite of the fact that I had everything packed up on the night before he was supposed to pick me up, I started to feel quite terrified and extremely frightened about the whole situation. Due to the fact that I was unable to accompany him, I took my bag and checked into a hotel in order to conceal myself. If he had pledged to leave me alone, I sent him a text message in which I stated that I would never contact him again, that I would never name him as the father of the child, and that I would never pursue child support. When I first approached him, he attempted to persuade me to comply with his demands. The words that he said to me were really hurtful, and he advised me to avoid getting in touch with him or showing up at his door in the future. I currently have a child who is 2 years old. The situation has been challenging at times, but on the whole we are doing as well as we possibly can. I have not followed through on my promise to not identify him as the father of the child or to ask for child support. A message was sent to me on social media by his wife. In any case, she is no longer his wife. She is interested in having a conversation with me. When she learned about me, she informed me that she had divorced him 6 months prior to our meeting. Her children are eager to get to know their siblings, and she is also eager for my child to get to know his siblings. To me, that seems strange. I have not yet given her a response to my message. It is not clear to me how to address this situation. In what way should I react to this? When she says that she is being sincere about that, I find myself wondering whether I am being self-centered by not exploring the possibility of my child getting to meet his brothers. In the event that I were married, and my spouse fathered a child outside of our marriage, I do not believe that I would experience the same negative emotions that she does. Important remarks to make. When we first started dating, I was unaware that he was already married. In the first comment, I admitted that I ought to have terminated the relationship as soon as I discovered that he was married rather than waiting until later. It was because I gave myself permission to trust what he told me that it appeared to be less of a problem, as if he and his wife had come to some kind of arrangement over this matter. In terms of my feelings, I was already addicted. This is not an excuse on my part. To say that I was pleased to bring a baby into this circumstance would be an understatement. There was a strong range of feelings present. In the beginning, there was a part of me that was excited because I had the impression that I was falling in love with him. Although I no longer had that feeling, I continued to have the impression that I loved my child. My goal was to remove myself from his life and the life of his family. I did this because I believed that this was the greatest thing that I could do. I only desired to be able to keep my baby and to cherish my baby at this time. I was not actively trying to conceive a child. Although I was not using birth control at the time, I had been using birth control when I was a little bit younger, and as a result, I experienced life-threatening health difficulties. I was aware that I was not using birth control. His sexual pleasure was unguarded. Because I was so foolish, I promised to carry it out. If he asked me to do something sexually, I would almost do it. I made an effort to keep track of my cycle, and kept him informed about the times when it was probably not a good idea to do it. His marriage is not actually the thing that I am concerned about. In any case, whatever it is that she would like to say to me is probably merited, and even more, make a second comment. It was before I ghosted him that he learned about the pregnancy going on. Furthermore, when we discovered that I was carrying his child, there was not the slightest bit of genuine conversation about what we were going to do with the pregnancy. Everything was going to proceed according to his plan, and we were going to do what he wanted us to do. In addition to calling me and leaving voicemails, he also sent me threatening texts. I begged him to please not force me to go on this abortion vacation that he had planned, and he became hostile when I told him that I was not going to accompany him on this trip. As a condition for letting me leave, I offered to never get in touch with him again. The agreement was reached when he threatened me once more, this time regarding what he would do if I did not fulfill my promise. He has not taken any action to get in touch with me, as he has fulfilled his obligations. Third, say something. I've been operating under the assumption that she discovered me on her own, possibly came across anything on his phone or computer, and that she has presumably been aware of me for some time before reaching out to me, presuming that she is in fact the person in question. Even though I understand what some people are saying regarding siblings and other related topics, that man is not the father of my child. Although he is the father of his older children, he is not the father of my child's child. Even though I am still young, I have a dream of having more children in the future. If I were to have more children, they would be my son's siblings. I have high hopes of finding a partner who will love both me and my son, and with whom I will be able to build a relationship that makes sense. Since I broke up with this single man, I have not been in a relationship with any other male. I will be honest and say that I have only recently gone on 2 dates for the very first time. I'm not in a state of utter desperation to locate a mate today. But I have faith that I will one day discover true love. My son does not belong to that particular family. They are old enough to drive, and he is only 2 years old. Therefore, I do not believe that they are missing out on any kind of significant relationship at this extremely moment. I can see your want to learn about your biological family, but I believe that he will be able to make that decision at a later time, when he is old enough to have a day. It's possible that he doesn't feel the need to know those people at the moment, but it will depend on where we are in our life at the time. I have no intention of lying to my kid about his conception. Nevertheless, I do not believe that it is necessary for us to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and their children who are in their teenage years at this time. Most recent update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I made a post, and things have only gotten stranger since then. Recently I had an affair with a man who was married to another woman. I deeply regret that, and I promise that I will never again engage in any behavior similar to that. From the very beginning I was aware that it was inappropriate, yet he managed to capture me. I was uninformed. The fact that he informed me that they were essentially simply married on paper for the sake of their children was something that I allowed myself to believe. I found out that I was pregnant, and although he attempted to persuade me to have an abortion, I ultimately chose to retain the kid. I currently have a young boy that is 2 years old. I gave this man my word that I would not reveal our affair to anyone else, that I would not formally acknowledge him as the father of the child, and that I would not ask for child support. I did it because he was getting very hostile about the whole thing, and I believed that because of the mess that I had caused and the way that I felt by the time it was over, a clean break with no interaction with him would be the best thing for everyone involved. I relocated to get closer to my family, which is located hundreds of miles away from where he and his family currently reside. It was approximately 1 month ago when his ex-wife reached out to me through social media, stating that they had been divorced for a period of 6 months, and that she desired for our children to have the opportunity to become acquainted with one another. Now that their children are teenagers, I didn't really believe that they would want anything to do with the little child and the lady with whom their father was having an affair. Unfortunately, I was wrong. To my mind, it was strange. Following my comments on this post, I came to the conclusion that I would not be responding to her. I'd choose to disregard it. Due to the fact that she just sent me a single message, it was not as if she was continually pressuring me to talk to me or meet with me. I made the decision to send her a message on Friday evening. To be honest, I have no idea why. The only reason I believe it was done was for my own benefit, so that I may have the opportunity to apologize to her. Considering that I was unable to have faith that it was indeed her, I informed her that I would feel more at ease if we were to have a face-to-face conversation. She stated that she had comprehended the situation. Despite the fact that I was too anxious to meet her in person, we agreed to have a video conversation. To be honest, I had no idea what to anticipate, whether this was all a plot to unload her rage on me or something else entirely. Actually, I am deserving of that. It wouldn't be a mistake for her to have those feelings. It turned out to be her. After the conclusion of our relationship, she informed me that she found messages between the two of us, which led her to find that we had been having an affair. She informed me that I am one of the many women he had affairs with over the years, and that she knew about somebody even before he met me. Nevertheless, she did not divorce him at the time this information was gathered. She finally gave in after learning about my child, which was the final straw. I expressed my regret for my relationship with her spouse and stated that I was aware that he was married. I also apologized for my behavior. She gently informed me that she forgives me and that, despite the fact that she first had a great deal of hatred toward me, she eventually held her husband responsible for the situation. In essence, she chooses not to detest me, despite the fact that I am not perfectly blameless. She stated that she would not have been able to say this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first learned about me, but she has moved past that. In addition to the numerous other feelings that are associated with him, she continues to harbor resentment toward him. She began the process of opening up to me about their life together and their marriage, which had been going on for more than 20 years, and it was quite difficult because I had no idea what to say. Both my son and I are familiar with her children. She claims that they are really angry with their father. For some reason, I don't believe that they are upset about the fact that he is not active in the lives of my son. Why would they be so upset over something like that? Were I in their position, I would despise myself. I explained to her that, because my son is still so little at the moment, I do not feel it would be appropriate for him to interact with her children, or to be a part of their family. I have a sense of uncertainty about it, and I do not believe that it is something that should take place at this time. A couple of months ago, she informed me that her ex-husband had been involved in a serious accident. Although he is completely fine at this point, he is not yet permitted to resume all of his regular activities. However, we will be good. Aside from the fact that he hardly ever appears to sit down, he is probably the most physically active person I have ever encountered. Given that he is not permitted to leave at all times, it is clear that he is a very bothersome person to be around. He is interested in meeting my son, she informed me. It would appear that she relocated back to live with him on a temporary basis when he first returned home from the hospital. According to her, the accident had a significant impact on him, and he has been expressing a great deal of sorrow regarding my son, not being involved in the situation, and not providing for him. At this point, it seems as though everything she claimed was a lie, and he managed to get her to contact me on his behalf in some capacity. Is it true that she pulled it off? When I first started chatting to her, it was almost like something of a relief. The question then arises as to whether any of that was true, or whether you were merely attempting to be his messenger. Now, I am not even sure if that particular aspect is accurate. How come he didn't just get in touch with me on his own? I just can't help but feel uneasy about the whole situation right now. Important remarks to make. Statement 1. I do not believe that it is necessary for me to involve his teenage children in the lives of my son. Perhaps when my son is old enough to make a decision about whether or not he wants that. The birth certificate does not include his name, and he does not pay me child support. He is not one of the parents. The only thing I have requested of him is that he give me permission to move away and refrain from trying to coerce me into having an abortion. My pledge to him was that I would not make contact with him, that I would not make him the father, and that I would not make him the father, and that I would not ask for child support. It is possible for him to get in touch with me directly, and to go through the legal process in order to establish himself as our son's father if he is honestly interested in having interaction with my son. Make a second comment. Neither of his rights were lawfully severed by him. It was never his intention to establish rights in the first place. It is not until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father that he will be granted any rights. He is free to carry out that action. To tell you the truth, I wish that my son had a father who was actively interested in his life and affectionate toward him. Although this individual does have certain shortcomings, he also possesses a great deal of admirable traits. He takes a significant amount of interest in his elder children. It was because they were at work with him, or because he had to stop by the office on his way to take them somewhere, that I had the opportunity to meet them on multiple occasions. He was always engaging in activities with them. They appeared to be good children who had a deep affection for their father. It would be wonderful if my son could also enjoy that experience. On the basis of his actions at the time that I was pregnant, I did not consider it to be a viable choice. He was uninterested and wanted me and our child to leave. He wanted us to leave. I went ahead and did it. As for me, I agreed to it. However, at this point in time, he is not legally recognized as the father of my son. With relation to my son, this indicates that he does not possess any legal parental rights or responsibilities at the present time. In the event that he desires to establish paternity, I am unable to prevent him from taking the necessary legal measures to do so. He is and will continue to be the biological father of my son. That is a fact that I cannot alter. My son will most certainly be interested in learning more about his biological father, and who knows? This is true regardless of whether or not he ever confirms paternity through legal means. Without regard to the legal paternity of the child, it is possible that they will eventually have a relationship. In the future, I have no way of knowing whether or not I may come across a man who would be interested in adopting my son and being his legal father. There is nothing that I am particularly interested in doing, but it is something that I believe would be enjoyable. Because I made the decision to do so, I have only gone on 2 dates since the birth of my kid, and those dates were only within the year 2024. The fact that it will not be as easy as signing a piece of paper is something that I am aware of. I posted about this a few months back, and here is the second update. Just to briefly outline everything. I had an affair with a married man who was also a father while I was just starting out in my college career. I'm now carrying a child. It was his desire for me to have an abortion. For the purpose of obtaining an abortion, he had made arrangements to take me away on holiday. Despite the fact that I was not entirely certain of what I wanted to accomplish, I consented to go along with what we desired. At the very last second, while he was on his way to come pick me up, I informed him that I was unable to go through with the abortion. Simply put, I did not feel at ease with his strategy and the manner in which he was directing everything towards its completion. It made me uneasy. It was at that moment that I became aware of how far away I had gone with this error, how messed up the entire relationship was in its entirety. Extremely enraged was he. He made me feel frightened and insulted me in a number of different ways. I told him that if he would just leave me alone and let me become the mother of my child, then I would leave him alone, and I would not seek child support or name him as the father of the child. Before I met him, I had relocated to a different state, but I had moved back to my hometown. Despite my promise, I did not identify him as the father of the child, nor did I attempt to establish paternity. I have never made a request for child support. My kid is now 2 years old. It was a few months ago that his wife reached out to me through social media. In the beginning, she gave the impression that she was interested in my child getting to know his brothers. Due to the fact that the siblings are teenagers, it was a little strange. It had been 6 months since she had divorced him. She stated this. Not in person, but virtually, I consented to have a conversation with her. In light of what I had done, I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for my actions. I do get a horrible feeling about it. In spite of this, I approached her at the conclusion of the conversation and informed her that I did not believe it was the right time to introduce my son to her children. They are in their teens, and he is a toddler. In addition, I had told her husband that I would not be involved in his life. It was at that moment that she informed me that he had been involved in a serious accident not too long ago, and that she had been assisting in his care. It was indicated that he was going to be all right, and that he had healed very well at that time, but she mentioned that he had expressed interest in meeting our child instead. It might be said that she served as his messenger. Since then, I have refrained from communicating with her in any way. I removed all of my social media accounts. For some reason, the whole affair just made me feel really uneasy. I have no idea why. After my previous post on this site. Following that, I was sent a letter that he had written by hand. Within the document, he conveyed his desire to become acquainted with our son. Our son is the one he hopes to become a father to. His goal is to assist him financially in whatever way he can. It is his desire that we pay him a visit. It was a paternity affidavit that he requested that I sign. I did not agree to do it. Even though I am aware that he is the father of my son, I am not going to make this situation any simpler for him. As a result of the things he said to me, and the threats he made against me, he is at least required to try to earn this. At that moment, my parents were of the opinion that we ought to consult with a legal professional. All of my communications have been routed through a legal representative. I have never personally responded to him, Ash directly. I have never done so. As of right now, I have a paternity order from the court. In order to get a specimen obtained from my son tomorrow, I am required to present him. There is no question in my mind about what it will say. It's not that I don't appreciate the presence of a father figure in my son's life. I mean, the whole issue is a complete and utter mess. He also resides in a few states, distant from where I do. What should I do? I am at a loss. Honestly, I am unable to accomplish anything. Everything he does is within the law. After that, I have no doubt that he would submit a petition for visitation or custody of the child. Reportedly, he is no longer married at this point. On the other hand, he has a much longer history than I have. He has a significantly greater amount of cash resources. I also know that he has a wide variety of connections in the area where he resides. I am fortunate that they do not carry as much weight in my state, but the fact remains that it is really frightening to me. I'm a terrible mom. I brought my son into this world with the knowledge that it would be a chaotic circumstance. I have just become so accustomed to the fact that it is just the two of us, and from this point on, I do not want to give up that. Please provide comments that are pertinent to the question of whether or not the father will be moving closer to her and her son now that he is divorced from his ex-wife. In order to briefly discuss a few points. The likelihood of his moving away from his current residence is low. He has a significant amount of established there also. He is in his early 40s at this point. During the time that I knew him, he was extremely physically active, and I have no idea how this alleged accident, if it indeed took place at all, has impacted him. Even though he barely slept for around 4 hours a night, he would take a 20-minute power nap every day, and he would hardly ever sit down. In addition to this, he was quite interested in the lives of his children. In fact, I would go so far as to suggest that they are overprotective, more like a helicopter dad than the normal helicopter mom. He was a careless welder number 4048. I don't see how he had the time to cheat. Op respond, he moved at a rate of approximately 1 million miles per minute and only slept for a few hours each night. Regarding that, everyone made jokes. Somehow, he was able to get up at 5 in the morning, go surfing, do some work, take his children to school, do some work, take his power nap, get some coffee, pick up his children after school, and take them wakeboarding, or some other activity of a similar nature, do some more work, whether it was his children's basketball game, and so on and so forth. To put it another way, he never, ever stopped. In order to keep him from becoming bored, I was just another thing that he took into consideration when filling out his calendar. With regard to the father's connection with his ex-wife and the children they had together, the solution from above. Not only do I not believe that he and his wife had a significant relationship, but I also do not believe that it was exactly the same as he portrayed it to me. I have the impression that they led very different lifestyles despite the fact that they shared the same house. He gave her a business to invest in so that she would have something to do and would be kept busy. The majority of the time, she was present. Even going to their children's activities together was not something they did. At all times, he was the one who left. It seems to me that this also freed up some time. I believe that they did not enjoy being in the same room together, which is why she was relieved to have him away from the house. It was revealed to me that she was aware of the most of the time that we were together, and she confirmed that I was not the first affair that he had. An additional update on how foolish I am, or the fact that I had a child as a result of an affair, and now his wife is trying to get in touch with me. I won't go into detail about the entire situation here. Your profile contains all of my previous posts. I had an affair with a married man, and as a result, I became pregnant. My abortion was something he wanted me to have. My decision was that I did not want one. I made a vow to him that I would not formally identify him as the father of the child and that I would not pursue any form of child support. I relocated to a different location than where he and his family were living. Now that I am back in the place where my family is from, I am approximately 12 hours away from him. After more than 3 years, I have not attempted to get in touch with him. His ex-wife came out to me via social media out of the blue, originally claiming that she wanted to connect with me so that our children could get to know each other. Due to the fact that her children are teenagers and my son is a toddler, and because we live in different states, I graciously declined the offer for the time being. She admitted that she was actually reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband, who had allegedly changed his mind about whether or not he wanted to be part in the life of our child after he came dangerously close to passing away in an accident. After that point, I did not continue to interact with her in any way. Everything about it made me feel really uneasy. After that, I was sent a letter from him that I received in the mail. As well as other things, he requested to be involved with our son and to provide for him. It was still strange to me. I am referring to the fact that he became quite hostile and refused to have any interaction with either me or our child. He had not made any attempt to get in touch with me for years, and I was not hiding. The fact that his wife was able to locate me on social media is evident, and my address is available on the internet. It seemed to me that if he was serious about the matter, he would put in the effort to establish paternity legally. As a matter of fact, he did it. We were given the instruction to submit DNA samples for a paternity test approximately 1.5 months ago today. Approximately 5 weeks passed before I was able to discover what I had already anticipated it would say. Nevertheless, the next stage of the legal process has been delayed for a few more weeks, and things are currently at a standstill. I have not communicated with him at any point throughout this entire process. It was not a direct response that I sent to his letter. It is true that I have a lawyer, and at this point, everything is essentially going via him. The following weekend, he suddenly showed up at my house without giving me any prior notice. They simply knocked on the door as if it were nothing at all. To put it simply, this is his son, and he does not wish to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably require us to participate in some kind of custody mediation nonetheless. When he spoke, why is it that I can't easily contact him? I informed him that he was causing me discomfort, and that the very fact that he was coming to my house was causing me a great deal of discomfort, and to tell you the truth, I have no idea what caused me to feel so uneasy. The fact that he turned up without prior notice in such a manner, or the situation in which I immediately felt the same attraction to him that I experienced while I was with him, despite the fact that I did not want to feel that desire at all. A strange part of me was delighted to see him, and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. I don't know why I felt both of these emotions. He stated that he lacks comprehension as to why we are unable to just discuss this matter. The only thing he wants is to be part in my son's life and to assist in providing for him, just as he ought to have been doing all along. He is not the one who is attempting to take my son away from me. When he was born, he wishes he had been there to witness it. He expresses regret for the manner in which he responded to my refusal to comply with his intentions to take me on a trip that would involve an abortion. I don't see why I can't accept that all he wants to do is parent his child. My assumption is that I concur with him. I don't understand why I can't just accept the fact that he has changed his mind. I know I can't rely on myself, because I cannot rely on my own judgment. It seems to me that if I allow him to readily enter my son's life, I will eventually come to regret my decision and will be made to look foolish in some way. Whenever it comes to him, I have already committed a great number of errors. According to him, it is foolish of me to not make an effort to resolve the issue amongst ourselves first. I am agreeing to give the court a great deal of control. It is difficult for me to decide whether I should believe that or whether I should assume that it is just his technique of getting me to do what he wants. It is certain that he will be granted visitation and, eventually, custody of the child. It is possible that it would be more beneficial if we made an effort to reach a consensus. Nevertheless, he had the power to easily sway my opinion. When it comes to him, I utterly lack intelligence. In all of my years, no one else has ever made me feel as silly as I do now. I hope that my son will have a father figure in his life. I will freely acknowledge that my desire to keep him away is undoubtedly somewhat self-centered. The thought of having to spend weeks or months away from my child, while he is living with his father 12 hours away, is something that I just can't stand to contemplate. I can't even bear the thought of it. That's all I'm feeling right now, dejected, dumb, and sad. This post has pertinent remarks about whether or not the father is genuinely divorced from his wife. In response to your question, I examined the county records, and it appears that they in fact divorced. Mammoth Mite 8171 is the mite in question. There is a time when you have to put your faith in your attorney, and I hope that he is a good one. Check that your attorney has all of the relevant information. In addition to the manner in which he behaved toward you when he discovered that you were pregnant. Maintain no further communication with your former partner, especially considering the fact that you are aware of the fact that you are unable to make sound choices when he is involved. It is possible that you will need to mentally prepare yourself for the fact that your ex-spouse will eventually play a role in the lives of your child, despite the fact that this is upsetting. If you are able to pursue him for back child support, it would be an excellent answer. My attorney has access to any and all information that I might have been required to disclose. I have already begun to get myself ready for the possibility that he will play a part in the lives of my child. That is to say, the transition is going to be challenging for me, and to tell you the truth, I do not want anything to change. Nevertheless, I am making an effort to concentrate on whatever sliver of a positive effect that this may have for my son. He ought to have a father. I really wish that it wasn't in this predicament. The ideal situation would have been for me to provide him with 2 loving parents and a solid partnership. I wish that I had at least provided him with a father who did not reside in another state. Both of my son's parents are liars and cheaters, and that makes me feel terrible. However, with the birth of my baby, I have been experiencing a new level of embarrassment regarding our behavior. I honestly do feel so embarrassed about it. With the exception of that whole issue and the fact that, according to his ex-wife, he has allegedly had affairs with a number of different women, he appears to be a fantastic father to his children who are in their teenage years. On a consistent basis, he was highly active with them. I suppose that all I'm doing is attempting to cling to any or all of the positive things that come to mind. Also, he is able to contribute a great deal more financially than I am able to at the moment. Personally, I find that to be quite unsettling since I am already imagining that we are engaged in some kind of rivalry with one another. I have no points, but he has a few at his disposal. Additionally, my son is a very shy person. In the absence of either myself or one of my parents, he does not perform as well as he should. In spite of the fact that I am only now beginning to engage him in more activities with other children and adults who are trustworthy and secure, he continues to cling to me. When I consider the possibility of him running into an unknown individual, my heart breaks. Not only does he not know, but I am also not present. I would like to be present there. On top of that, I believe that is how things typically work out for him. Not only that, but to tell you the truth, I used to be the same way with him as well. All you need to do is comply with his demands. Upon his arrival in person, it was clear that he had been anticipating my presence. It appeared as though he was truly startled when I did not immediately comply with both of his demands. There is a good chance that the former version of myself would have. This is the answer to the question of how the father was able to locate her address. In the past, he had written me a letter and mailed it to me. I searched for myself on Google, and my address was quickly found. After moving away, I must confess that I did not make any attempt to conceal my identity. It didn't seem relevant to me to do so. As a result of his lack of desire in being involved with our child, I made a commitment to never get in touch with him again. That was the last thing I thought would happen. When I spoke to his ex-wife, she informed me that he had been involved in a serious accident. Given his interests, this should not come as much of a surprise. At a speed of almost 200 miles per minute, he lives his life. It was necessary for her to relocate back into their home in order to provide care for him while he was recuperating, as she stated. When he arrived, he did not appear to be someone who had been involved in a life-threatening event not too long before. He appeared to be in good general health. In spite of the fact that he will most likely continue to struggle with back problems for the rest of his life, he has informed me that he has completely recovered. Op was asked about the possibility of establishing a visiting schedule with the father of her son. The fact that he has not been involved in his child's life for the past 3 years, according to my attorney, will not be a significant factor in the court's decision to create a graduated visitation plan. This is based on the fact that my son does not know this man. Having a child who is raised by both of their parents is their ultimate aim. The fact that I did not identify him as the father at birth, or make any attempt to establish paternity in any manner was a mistake that I made about myself. If I had done that and he had opposed it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, and other such things, then we could have a better case when it comes to abandonment. The fact that he is making an effort to establish paternity at this time, that he is prepared to pay child support, and that he is probably going to tell the court that he wants to see his child is going to reflect favorably on him, despite the fact that he has not been active for 3 years. Latest information is here. I won't even go there because everyone was upset with me for sharing a review of my predicament in my prior blogs. I won't even go there. You are welcome to read my earlier postings if you are curious about the history of the situation. All I will tell is that I am the mother of a son who is 3 years old and was created from an affair that I had with a man who was married. After initially requiring me to make a commitment that I would not contact him, that I would not identify him as the father, and that I would not ask for child support, the father of my child has been making efforts to get involved in our son's life over the course of the past few months. Recently, he made an appearance at my residence in an effort to persuade me to negotiate the matter directly with him. He lives in a different state than I do right now. During the period that I have not posted, we have just participated in a mediation session, and he has had 2 encounters with our son. During this time, he will be present for supervised visitation, which will be taking place. We are compelled to bring him here to see our son, despite the fact that he lives in a different state. As a result of the journey, it will not be on a weekly basis. There will be a total of 4 visits every month, including 2 video conversations, and he will see him during 2 weeks of the month, twice per week, for a total of 4 visits per month. This will continue for a period of 6 months. In the following phase, he will continue to adhere to that schedule, but he will be required to have unsupervised visits during which he will not be able to remove him from the surroundings for another half a year. After a year, we came to an agreement that we would hold another mediation session in order to establish the following steps of the aim, which was for him to be able to have my son stay at his house for a short period of time overnight. Not even close to being ready to talk about that. Right now, he is already suggesting that I could come for the initial several occasions. The way that it sounds is in no way appealing to me. Additionally, we have the ability to request another mediation session prior to the year's end, but I have a feeling that he is going to decline that choice. Moreover, I am in possession of a child support order. In spite of the fact that he is in agreement with the arrangement of paying child support, it will be necessary for it to go through the legal process before it can become official, and before I can begin receiving the regular payment. For the time being, he drafted a substantial check for me. At first I was apprehensive to agree to it. This is not to imply that I do not believe that my son is deserving of it. Rather, I am constantly concerned that I will say or do something that is legally incorrect, absolutely unwittingly, and thereby shoot myself in the foot. In other words, by taking this check, am I subjecting both myself and my son to any form of obligation? Is there a way that he may turn this against me? Things goes without saying that Dad was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does get that my son should not just run off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he does wish that we could hurry things up a little bit more. However, we were able to reach a consensus on the 6-month plan. In order for him to spend a week or two getting to know our son, he wanted to fly us both to his place of residence. However, I do not believe that now is an acceptable moment for him to pursue this plan. The timing may be around the holidays or in a few months, depending on how things are going at the moment. If it were to happen, it would be too soon. It turned out that the first 2 sessions went pretty much exactly as I had anticipated they would. He is a very reserved young man. Almost all of the time, he desired to conceal himself behind me. After that, whenever he would come out from behind me, he would become quite agitated as soon as his father would say anything to him. Without making any sound, he would swiftly retreat behind me and stare blankly at his father without uttering a single word. Despite the fact that he has made some progress in coming out of his shell, he has not yet spoken a single word to his father. The only person he communicates with is me, and he acts as if his father is not present. As far as that is concerned, I will add that his father has shown patience and understanding. He is not displaying any signs of frustration, if he is. In lieu of spending a significant amount of time with me and my parents, he did make the suggestion that perhaps our son ought to spend more time exploring the world, attending daycare, or even preschool. Not only does he have a strong preference for our son over me, but he is also very pleased with how much our son resembles him. The one thing that did disturb me was the fact that I had already told him that I wanted to be very careful and aware of how we notified our kid, who is only a little over 3 years old, that this man who is a complete stranger is his father. Sure, he responded, that's fine. After that, he revealed himself as the father during the initial encounter. Since that time, I have been making an effort to assist my son with comprehending. For example, you know how your grandfather is my father, and this individual is your father. The fact that any of this is taking place is just hard for me to believe. I can't help but feel as though I'm expecting the other shoe to fall. Although I am currently waiting for something to blow up in my face, I am currently working on accepting the new reality that we are living in. My son is having a difficult time adjusting to all of this change, and I am also having a difficult time. In the event that he truly messes up, I anticipate that we will eventually spend time together, with my kid spending school breaks and holidays at his father's house, which is located in a different state and is a significant distance away. It will not take place tomorrow, but it will take place in the reality that is most likely to occur. Only hope that he maintains his dedication. This is something that my child deserves if he is capable of being a decent father to my child, despite the fact that it makes me feel sad to share him. If he were to shatter the heart of my son, that would be a different issue, and this is something that I would not readily accept. On the relevant statements made by the op on the instances in which her kid is required to travel to visit his father and the decisions that the courts are making, the answer is that they have not yet ordered him to travel to his father in his state, but it is likely that this will occur in the future. Referring to students in elementary school, 675 is the worldly promise. Given the circumstances, I really hope that everything turns out as well as it possibly can. There is no doubt that your son and his health are of the utmost importance. There does not appear to be much of a change in the baby daddy, because he is an extremely demanding person who does not appreciate boundaries. His answer is that he is accustomed to getting his way. I'm doing all in my power to not just give in but also figure out how to make concessions. Do you have any concerns, Imolela, about the possibility that he would also try to promote the concept of a romantic reconciliation? I get the impression that you are concentrating on your son, while he is concentrating on acquiring what he wants, the solution from above. No, I am not sure. This is not the impression that he has actually left on me. I have received compliments from him. He has made an effort to bring to my memory some of the enjoyable times that we shared together. From my perspective, however, I see all of it as part of his schmoozing to simply get me to do what he wants, and not to get back together with me. OP. She is going to talk to a therapist about her son. My answer is a P. Yes, I am currently in the process of locating a therapist for him. In retrospect, I see that I ought to have initiated that procedure before to the occurrence of all of this. You are appreciated for watching. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and make sure to hit the notification bell so that you can remain informed about other stunning real-life tales that are occurring in your immediate vicinity.